curious about South Asia, though, and what's going on in India. These protests erupting on the streets across the country. Workers, mainly about this new law that they're trying to get through to make it easier for companies to lay off more workers. I think that's literally the gist of it here. And this is all happening ahead of the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, meeting and deciding on rates as well. How is that going to influence policy, do you think, or is it?
I don't think it's a policy influence at the moment. Inflation is low enough. I think the RBI can focus more on the growth side. But and obviously the protests are about one aspect of these reforms. But as proposed, these are the biggest shake-up in Indian labour market reforms certainly I've ever seen. And I don't know how far you have to go back in the history books to look to find this sort of liberalisation. India, we know, an economy of kind of unbounded potential, but held back by, in some cases, archaic regulation. And this is an effort to, in one swoop, to do away with that. There is the easier to fire aspect, but there's also the easier to hire aspect of the reforms, and in fact, making it much simpler to hire and hopefully making businesses more productive. And so they need more workers. India still seems to have a problem with, I guess, what I'd call zero productivity jobs. And for anyone who's been there, you would know there seem to be workers who don't seem to do some things that are not that productive. So the labour market needs to strengthen. I think these reforms are a good step forward, even if obviously they're a consternation for some people because they feel like they challenge their security.
Oh, absolutely, and totally understandable as well. On the INR, Indian rupee, the currency, we're down about, about 4% or so already so far this year. More downside ahead?
Look, it does. India's got an underpinning of this high inflation premium, and that's a challenge for the currency. When other parts of Asia are dealing with deflation, obviously that pull is not a day-to-day influence, but over time it does start to play a role. And if you look at India versus China, for instance, in the currency space, I think you can see this deflationary story coming through. And in fact, it's one of the things that make me think people are too long-term pessimistic on the renminbi.